So to get started with using Carbon, we're going to have to install it, and there are a couple of ways that we can do this. The first way, which I would highly recommend, is using Composer to install this as a project dependency. And that way you can keep up to date with it and easily install it when you transfer your project over to your production environment. So let's take a look at, first of all, installing Carbon with Packagist, or through Packagist with Composer, and then we'll look at the other method, which is just copying the file over, which is fairly straightforward anyway. So if we head over to the Packagist page for Carbon, this gives us the version information here, and we can just click on one of these to get the require details for this. So let's go ahead and install this version, and if we head over to our text editor, at the moment all I have is an index.php file which doesn't contain anything at the moment, but I'm going to create a new Composer file. So let's go ahead and save that as composer.json, and let's paste in this in just a moment. We need to choose what we want to require and just paste that in. And of course what we can do is if we want to say 1.star, we can. That will just pull in the latest version under 1. So once we've done that, then obviously making sure you've got Composer installed on your system. If you don't already, just head over to getcomposer.org and you can go ahead and download that. It works for most operating systems. And we're just going to say Composer install, making sure that we're within the directory that our composer.json file is within. And that's going to go ahead and download Carbon as a project dependency. And with Composer, this is going to be really easy to just require this in because it will create an auto load file for us. So let's just wait for that to finish and then we'll get going including it in. Okay, so now that that has been downloaded, we now see a vendor folder within our project. If you have other dependencies, these will be stored here as well. And we have this auto load file under this vendor directory, which we can just require into our project to pull in all of our dependencies so we can start to use them. So all we're going to need to do here then is require in vendor/autoload.php, and we can now start to use Carbon, which we'll obviously look at throughout this series. So there is an alternative method of using Carbon, and that's just to download the Carbon file. So let's go ahead and look at doing that next. So if you head over to the GitHub repository, we can download Carbon without using Composer by simply coming into this Carbon source Carbon directory, grabbing this file just here, which you can see here, and we can go ahead and hit the raw button. We can copy over the contents of this file to our project, or you can download the file and just drag it over. In this case, I'm just going to come over to my text editor. I'm going to create a new folder called libs. I'm going to go ahead and create a new folder within this called Carbon. And then I'm going to go ahead and just create a new file called carbon.php. Let's drag this down. We're going to save that. We're going to paste that in there. And then that's our Carbon dependency downloaded. So obviously to require this in, it's a little bit more effort without using Composer. But we can just require in libs, carbon.php, and if we go ahead and just refresh, we shouldn't see any errors. So like I've said, I would highly recommend downloading this with Composer and keeping it as a dependency for your project. But if you want to follow along, and like I said, if you're not quite ready to use Composer yet, that's fine. We can still look at how we actually use Carbon to make working with dates and times really, really easy. So let's head on for the rest of the series and just look at how we use Carbon and how it will improve working with our dates and times within our application.